All right. I think we're going. What's all right? Here we go. Sorry, I still gotta get used to this. It's been like a week since I've done this. All right. What's up, ccum squad? How we doing? Today we're gonna be reviewing some gym hot takes slash theories slash whatever else. You know what I mean? We're live. We can do whatever we want. There's no rules. There's no rules. Come on now. But anyways, first, before I got some other I found a TikTok and I'm gonna go through the comments and see what people are saying on that. But before I did a poll or not really a poll, I asked you guys to give me your answers. So we're gonna go through your answers first, if that's okay. I'll keep it anonymous because there are some rather weird answers, but that's okay. That's okay. You know, the Seacom squad, we do what we want. You know what I mean? Come on now. But anyways, the first hot take for how to make gains, I think that was the question I asked. How to make gains is eating your own mayonnaise. Let's just call it mayonnaise because it's in the same vicinity. It's in the same category. It can be described very similarly if you catch my drift. Uh, Technically, I think there is protein in it. So, you know, at the end of the day, you know, if it works, it works. Am I recommending it? Not at all. Am I saying I've done it? Heck no. Heck no, I have not done it. Sorry, I didn't sound very confident when I said that. Heck no, I have not done that. Frick no. But if you are really desperate and let's say you're on like a deserted island and you don't want to lose your gains, I don't know, maybe. Okay, moving on. If anyone wants to look like you, the 80-20 diet isn't enough. 100, meaning like you need to be on point 100% of the time. You can't be 80% on, 20% off, 80. You need to be 100. I agree with this as far as bodybuilding prep goes. However, I'm going to have to disagree with just overall being buff. It's really like I'm speaking from experience. If you have good genetics, you you can probably get away with not being on point 100% of the time. Let's just say my lifestyle has not always dictated the way I looked. In fact, the only reason I've leveled up from how I looked a few years ago is because I locked in that last 20%. So yes, I agree with you. In order to look the way I do now slash what I did on stage, at least to get this amount of size, you do have to be pretty locked in with at least the protein and making sure you're getting enough food in to fuel it, but not just enough food, the right kinds of food that have the micronutrients. You know, it's granular. It's not really important if it's just casual to you, but on average, if you want to be as big as possible, you're gonna need to have the energy. And yes, you can take supplements and all that. In fact, I recommend it. But at the end of the day, if you want to feel good and not have to rely entirely on supplements, you need to eat good food like that has the micronutrients to make you feel good. I know it's freaking boring, freaking nerdy. Yeah, shut up. Yeah, I know. No one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear it. I know. But at the end of the day, you got to lock it in if you want to be at your 100. But you know what? Most people, the average person probably can't even tell the difference between you at your 80% and 90%, 100%. That's up to you to decide. Most people can't tell unless you're on a bodybuilding stage and you're 5% body fat. Putting on a pound of muscle is not actually as noticeable as you'd think. You're going to make the most amount of your progress in the first 3 years, and you can probably make the most amount of your progress accidentally, like not even doing it the correct way. Like you can just go to the gym, lift weights, and then eat just enough to get by and probably make a lot of progress. But yeah, anyways, I spent a while on that one. Whew. Um, Eat sebum, you get jacked. I wait. No, I don't know what that means. I'm moving on. Yeah, no, moving on. I heard blasting gear helps. Well, you heard correct. Whoever told you that, it's kind of like pointing out. I think they were messing with you because I think that's a pretty obvious statement to make. But in case you genuinely didn't know, yes, it does help. Am I saying you should do it? No. Am I saying I do it? No, I'm not. I don't. I know. Every time I say I don't, I swear I sound like such a liar. I'm like, I swear I don't. I swear. But I don't. I swear I don't. But yeah, it does help. But it at the cost of your long-term health, I don't recommend it. Let's just say that. Genetics, that is a hot take because a lot of people say, well, you can outwork your genetics. Your genetics don't dictate how far you can go. And if you look at someone like, maybe this is a controversial take, someone like Jay Cutler, as far as aesthetics go, his nickname at one point was literally the fridge because he had a wide waist. You know, not everything about him was genetically the best as far as insertions and stuff goes, but his genetics, if anyone says he had bad genetics, same with Dorian Yates. Dorian Yates, another mass monster guy. These guys on paper, if you were to describe their genetics, they wouldn't sound like the best. You know, it's like there are people who are shaped better, smaller waist, maybe wider shoulders, all that stuff. But to say that they have bad genetics is not true because you can have perfect insertions and stuff, but what makes a Mr. Olympia, at least open Mr. Olympias at that time, was just being able to put on muscle. And they were hyper responders to the gear and also just putting on muscle in general. They were just big guys, period. And I think I have a little bit of that gene of just putting on muscle a little bit easier than the average person. Am I saying I'm much more in the same boat as them? My insertions are far from perfect. I have a funky chest, all like everything is not super symmetrical, but I have good genetics as far as muscle building. So, yes, I do think genetics are important. However, I don't think they can prevent you from being great. I think that's where I'm going with this. And then that's where the divisions split. Like classic physique, you kind of genuinely have to be born to do classic physique. I competed in classic physique for my first bodybuilding show, but honestly, I think I would have done better in the open division. Not even because I was like there were guys on the classic physique stage who could arguably be like they were bigger than me, but also they didn't have the conditioning that I did. I think my genetic strong point is my size mixed with conditioning. I will never be the biggest guy, but I do think I can be the biggest guy while being the most conditioned. You know what I mean? That's the genetic distinguishment. Classic physique, you don't have to be as shredded, at least naturally. You don't have to be as shredded to win. I mean, the guy who beat me, it's just a fact. He didn't have as good a conditioning as I did, but I did bring better conditioning than him. So even though there were probably guys up there who could be like the guy in third place, I genuinely look back at photos and I think he probably is more classic than I am. Like his legs were shaped better, he had a smaller waist. Just overall, if he were to hop on and I were to hop on, we would not be in the same division. He would be the perfect candidate for classic physique, and I am the perfect candidate for the mass monster, just open, gross, not gross, but you know what I mean, to the average person, gross physique. So, yeah, that's kind of the distinguishment. All right, let's go to the TikTok now. I'm curious. I read through all of your guys' answers, so I kind of had a pre-planned, a little bit of pre-planned things to say. But what's up, Jay Lifts? What's up? We got a viewer. I kind of forgot I was even talking to people. I'm just talking to myself right now on the screen. And I know eventually people are going to watch this, but for now, I forget that there could actually be people watching. But anyways, let's go to the comments. The video was made by Adam, I think. It's kind of just one of those like TikTok accounts that don't show their face or anything. It's just they just ask a question and then people answer. But anyways, the question was, be honest, what's your most controversial gym opinion? And theirs was mine. Rest days are overrated if your recovery is on point. I think that is true if you are really far into your lifting journey and you're mainly focused on progressively overloading your strength. I think a lot of beginners genuinely do probably need that recovery because of how much faster their muscle is developing. Like, okay, think of it like this. I go to the gym and a beginner goes to the gym. Who's going to put on more muscle from that one lift? Same exact time lifted, same amount of reps, sets, volume, everything. Everything is the same. But who's going to put on more muscle? Obviously, the beginner is. Does that mean he's bigger than I am? No. But that just means that in order for me to keep up with the rate at which the beginners are, I have to push myself harder than they do. They could work about probably 70% of the effort I put in and put on more muscle hypothetically, but over time it's going to be a diminishing return curve. And for me at this point, they need that rest more than I do because of how fast their progress is. Rest is in, like, let's say they're doing most beginners will do too much volume. Genuinely, I think most beginners do too much volume. I think they can progress even faster with a little bit lower volume and maybe a little bit less rest days. But at least for them, I am not causing nearly as much growth, which in my mind means that if I were to just go in and just do one set absolutely to the max, I don't think I'm going to cause a crazy amount of fatigue and damage. So I could hypothetically get back in within a couple days. But if you're doing like a full body thing, yes, you need rest days. You cannot hit the fastest you should be able to hit a muscle again is within 4 to 8 hours. If you do just enough volume and just enough intensity, you can get back in and probably hit the same muscle again within 48 hours, especially with a muscle like maybe the shoulders that are known to recover quicker. But if it's like a bigger muscle like legs, you're going to have a little bit different, unless you're perfect, like your training is literally perfect and you got everything down right. You're probably going to need at least 1 day in between. You know what I mean? Never back-to-back days. That's just not right. But anyways, the top comment is, it's literally 80% diet. That I don't agree with. That goes against literally what I said at the beginning of the stream. You can also rewind to the beginning of the stream if you're new here, even though I don't even know if anyone's watching right now. I forget where to look. Oh, I have 0 people watching. That's awesome. But I disagree. I'd say for the first 3 years, just having an average, pretty good diet with, obviously a good amount of protein to make sure you're recovering and your macros aren't just straight fat, like especially like saturated fat and all that. Like if you're getting carbs in, if you're lifting weights, the muscle is going to grow. Like genuinely. After you break that initial once you hit that initial plateau of progress where it stops, that is when it becomes much more diet. At the beginning, training is infinitely more important than diet. After the first few years and your progress begins to slow, that's when the diet becomes much more important than still training though. I feel like training is still, how do you put on muscle? You lift weights. That's the only way to really put on muscle. At least, yeah, as far as I know, lifting weights, that's how you put on muscle. So obviously lifting more means more muscle, with the caveat if you're making sure that you're recovering and progressing, obviously. But anyways, oh, and they even doubled down. They said maybe more. They replied to themselves and said maybe more. But anyways, flat bench is elite for functional strength. Unless you're trying to compete in bodybuilding, there's no point in avoiding it. Yeah, I'd say, okay, hot take. I'd say actually the bench, like the flat bench, is, at least with a barbell, or they didn't distinguish between barbell and regular bench, but I'm assuming they mean just barbell flat press. I'd say that is actually better because than like a dumbbell. I do think dumbbell press is important, but I do think the stability of it's important for beginners to have that initial ability to not flex the muscle, but feel the muscle. And I do think the dumbbells give you the ability to maybe feel a little bit of a stretch, but I don't think the stretch is as important as people make it seem, at least sometimes. I do think keeping the constant tension on the muscle is what's most important. Not constant tension. Oh, see, I hate the science-based community. I hate the science-based community because you say something and there's 5 steadies for you and then 10 steadies against you. It's just go to the gym. And yes, flat bench. If you bench and you constantly progressively overload it, and you're trying to at least hit the muscles, if your back is completely like this and you're doing all kinds of funky stuff, that is not good. If you're stable and you are progressing at the movement, you're going to grow. Is it the best movement for growth? No. Sorry. I used to flat bench a lot. Let's just say that. And my chest has always been a weak point. But does that mean that all my progress was halted because I was flat benching? Someone could argue that, I guess. But I was able to get up to like 275 even a few years ago. I haven't even tried benching in a long time. Maybe I should. Maybe if I can't lift more than I could back then, maybe I have completely halted my progress. But I don't know. You should be sweating from your warm-up before you start lifting anything remotely heavy. Ooh. Depends on what you mean by warm-up. Warm-up as in hopping on a bike. What I've been doing lately, especially, it's cold. 'Tis the season. It's freaking cold outside. But I've been hopping on the bike for at least like 2 minutes, and I just do like an intense sitting. This looks funny. I don't know what I'm doing. I just sit there and I warm up and I get the heart going. But if you're doing a ton of warm-up sets just to get the blood flowing, that's probably going to actually hurt you more than help you. I do one set with about maybe like 50% to 60% of the weight I'm going to end up doing, only for like 5 reps, and not even to like warm the muscle up, mainly just to get the movement down and just to make sure I'm flexing the right muscles. It's not about warming up. It's just about, because once you get the path down and you kind of just do it on autopilot, I'm not saying you want to be completely on autopilot when you do a set, but it's definitely harder to do a heavy set when you're constantly thinking about the form. That's what I think the warm-up set is really beneficial for. Just simply getting the movement down before you even get going, so that way by the time you are doing heavyweight and you are trying to focus on just freaking getting the movement down, if you've done a warm-up set, it'll help you not have to think as much in the middle of the set. But no, I don't think you should be sweating from your warm-up before you start lifting anything heavy. But I do think you should at least have your heart rate up. Also, sauna. I guess if you're using the sauna to warm up, yeah, you're much more likely to freaking start sweating. But that doesn't mean that you're burning calories or burning through any of your fuel. You want to keep as much fuel in the tank for your actual lift. And then you can do your cardio after, where you burn all the calories, all the excess calories that you didn't end up using from all the carbs and stuff. But yeah, anyway, sorry, I've been yapping. If you get caught putting a dumbbell back in the wrong spot or just not putting them back at all, your membership gets revoked. Yeah, dumbbells especially. If you leave a dumbbell on the ground, bro, come on. I know for a fact that dumbbell, you know where you got it from. Unless you found a dumbbell just sitting on the middle of the floor or something, which if you did, I guess you know where they belong. It's pretty clear. It's against the wall. So yes, if you put it in the wrong spot, maybe if you're off by like 5 pounds, if you put a 30 and a 35, I've probably done that on accident from time to time. But if you just don't put them back at all, come on now. What are we doing? What are we doing? That's not proper gym etiquette. What are we doing? Getting your gym membership revoked. I think you should get a warning before you get it revoked, though. That's a little crazy. If you don't need rest days, you're not going hard enough. I'd say this is true more so for leg training than upper body training. If you're only doing like machines, I don't think it applies as much. But if you're doing a heavy set of squat or like a straight leg deadlift or just a regular deadlift in general, certain movements require more or they cause more CNS fatigue. There's different types of fatigue, and the CNS fatigue is more so to do with your overall energy. Like your muscle could probably be fully recovered, but you know how sometimes you feel like your muscles are good, but you're just exhausted, you're just tired. That's the central nervous system fatigue, and squats are much more likely to cause CNS fatigue than the leg extension. Does that mean that the squat is more likely to cause growth than the leg extension. Not necessarily. And in fact, I usually only do one hard set of squat to failure because I know the reward to risk benefit of causing so much fatigue that I can't get back in again and progress at the movement. I'm trying to progress at the movement, but I also know that if I do too much in one session, it's going to prevent me from going harder on the next session. Think of it like this. If you do two sets of a squat movement in one day, the first squat, in hypothetically, let's say you're taking both of them to failure as hard as you can, as much weight as you can. If you did the first one and you genuinely did train to failure and go as hard as you could at it, the second set is guaranteed to not be as good as the first because you've already used up and you've hit failure. Unless you've taken like freaking 30 minutes in between sets, which you could hypothetically do, but let's say you're just trying to do it back to back within a few minutes, the second set is not going to be as quality. So what I end up doing is I just take that second set and I just put it into the next session. Yes, it may feel like you're doing more and getting ahead of the competition, but if you're delaying your progress, because if you were to do that second set in this session, the second set wouldn't be as quality as the first, and then it would probably end up delaying how long you could do the next leg day because of how much recovery you need from it. If you were to take that second set out and put it into the next one, you see what I'm saying? It'll be that second set that would have been worse is now more quality. Frick, I need a friggin' whiteboard or something. It's so hard to describe. You see what? I don't even know. No one's even friggin' watching me right now. All right. I hate the gym. I hate the gym science, but I love lifting. People who don't lock in and spend more than an hour and a half at the gym. Wait, what? People who don't lock in and spend more than an hour and a half at the gym? Like, I don't know what that means. If you do calisthenics, you shouldn't be wearing gloves. I just don't think you should be wearing gloves in the gym, period. I have nothing against you if you do. In fact, one time my mom tried buying me workout gloves because when I first started training for football, I used to do deadlifts and my hand would start bleeding because my hands were... I wonder if you can see it in the camera. I have really like messed up... what are they called? I forget what they're called. But yeah, I used to bleed really bad whenever I would deadlift. But after a while, it builds up. And it's the same thing with like the squat bar. Every time I've taken someone to squat and they're like, ooh, it kind of hurts. It kind of hurts. It's like, yeah, it's kind of supposed to. It's like build some traps and then maybe it won't hurt as bad. But yeah. Sorry. I have a friggin... I tried doing something on TikTok and it was like, are you 21 or 18 or something? And when I went to do it with a face recognition thing, it thought I was like underage or something. I don't know. I must have been clean shaven. I have a little bit of a baby face sometimes. But now it keeps me locked out. Or I don't know if it's this one or I have a bedtime alert. It tells me to go to bed. And then it plays like relaxing music. So actually, I don't think that's what's causing this. But it is my bedtime alert later in the day. Not all protein is the same. Same for all macros. That's true, and that's a hard thing I've had to learn over the last couple of years. Protein is comprised. You have to think there's a macro. What comprises the macro, the micro, and what's within protein? Different amino acids, and not all protein is comprised of the same amount. And there's a total amount of amino acids within a protein. So something like plant protein will not have as many it has a less amino acids in it than something like chicken. That's why people say chicken protein is better than plant protein, because it's comprised of more of the amino acids that you need to build muscle. Does that mean you shouldn't count that protein towards your overall daily caloric intake? No, you should still count it, but you need to make sure that of your total daily protein intake, I'd say at least 70 to 80% of it should be coming from a full amino acid complex. So like chicken, fish, all that kind of stuff. Milk, got milk. Funny. But yeah. And then same with carbs. Carbs, there's complex carbs, there's simple, fast digesting carbs, there's fiber. Just, I'm not going to be your dietitian. You can look it up on TikTok. Come on now. Like, you're probably watching this on TikTok. So just do me a favor and look it up because I don't want to spend too much time on it. Machine and free weights offer the same results in terms of hypertrophy and strength benefits. This shouldn't be a hot take though. Multiple PMIDs exist verifying this. I don't know what that means. PM. Do you guys recognize that word? Oops. PM. You can't even see it. Never mind. But machines and free weights offer the same results. I'd say as far as overall like compound strength and size, yeah, you could probably make pretty similar results. However, when it comes to the granular things, you can't. Okay, for example, with the quads, there are I'll just call them the upper quad muscles and then the lower quad muscles. You genuinely have to do a leg extension to hit the upper quad muscles. Obviously, there's a real name for them. I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But if I were to flex my quad right now, you know how like all the lines on the upper quad you can see, you have to do leg extension for that because the leg pressing movements like squats, they do. I don't believe they activate them the same way that leg extensions do. Does that mean that they're not going to grow if you don't do leg extensions? No, they'll grow, but if you want to maximize them, you need to do a leg extension, and that's the same thing for like the back. Yes, your freaking lats are going to grow if you're doing rows. Does that mean that your lats are going to reach their full potential if you don't? No, you need to make sure that it's kind of like stocks, is it better to invest all your money into one company and just pray that it goes up? Or is it better to have a little bit less money in multiple companies and have a diversified portfolio? Did that just click for some of you? I can literally hear it click in your head right now. You need to diversify the volume in one workout. 3 sets of back is not equal to 3 sets of one movement for back is not the same thing as 3 sets diversified among maybe a trap focus movement or a lat focus movement or a mid back focus movement. You see what I'm saying? I'd rather have 1 set per designated function of a muscle than have 3 sets that are pretty much redundant and do the same thing. Oh, my cat's trying to get in. Hold on. I'm home alone, but I forgot I wasn't quite home alone. Hey, buddy. But anyways, how much longer do I have on my lunch break? I still got like 15 minutes. What do you think? You think hypertrophy is gonna happen regardless of freaking machine weights or free weights? He's climbing my door. Anyways, the only thing that matters is discipline and consistency. Everything else is up for debate, in my opinion. Oh, shoot. Oh, he's attacking my computer. The only thing that matters is discipline and consistency. Everything else is up for debate. Oh, hop down, buddy. Oh, my gosh. Maybe this was a mistake letting him in. Come on. Come on. Oh, whew. That could have gone bad. Discipline and consistency, yes. Yes, discipline and consistency is good. It's a basic ass answer. Come on now. Squats over bench press. Bro, they're not even in the same category. What does that even mean? I don't even know what that means. The pec deck is not the same place to catch up. Oh, it's not the place to catch up with friends. Some of us want to use it, especially for chest, the pec deck. Because for me especially, my chest is weak. I need that pec deck more than any other machine in the gym. If I were to just do pec deck for the rest of my life and just do that, I think I would have a solid physique. If I were to do everything but pec deck, everything would fall apart. I already have a weak chest. So, yeah, stop using the pec deck as a social setting, please. How much more? All right. I'm going to do two more. All right. Two more. Uh, Nothing is that complicated. If you are in there for 40 minutes, 3 days a week, 40 minutes, 3 days a week, doing stuff that is legitimately challenging, you will probably see gains. I agree with this. I maybe wouldn't have agreed with this as much in the past, but especially lately, I've really been just experimenting with like, all right, I'm going to just do what I need to do, keep it really simple, go really hard at it, and then leave. That's my mentality now. I'm not in there to chit chat, you know? I enjoy chit chatting, but once I'm done, not in the middle of my workout. Oh, oof. I'm sorry, but if you see me in the gym, I have some people who watch and see me in the gym and come up to me, say hi, but it's tough because I'm such a hypocrite. I will say this and then I will talk someone's ear off, but in the back of my mind I'm like, all right, I need to end this. I need to stop talking. I need to stop talking to them. I need to let them work out. But yeah, I agree. Real real controversial opinion. All right, last one. Last controversial hot take opinion. You ready? All right. And to truly train hard, you need to ego lift a bit. Occasionally, I think ego lifting in a safe environment and in a stable way, meaning you either have a spotter or you are using some kind of machine that allows you to go to absolute failure with like if you were to bench, you need a spotter or you need to be doing it with like a safeties. Any as long as safety is a factor, occasionally once every few weeks ego lifting I don't think is a bad thing because sometimes you don't know how much you can actually push yourself until you try. And sometimes overshooting what you think you can do, you end up finding out, oh, I can do more than I thought I could. Sometimes you get in such a flow of doing the same thing over and over that you don't actually know what your real limits are. And yeah, I do think occasionally just to not as a, I wouldn't even call it maxing out. I think 1 rep maxes, unless you're a power lifter, aren't very beneficial. But I think even doing a 3 rep set at a weight that you're not used to doing can actually help you because it, even though you're not really growing as much from it potentially, obviously they say 6 to 8 reps or 5 to 8 reps is most beneficial for hypertrophy, but still doing 3 reps to absolute failure with a stable movement with maybe a spotter, you're still going to grow from it. And if you send that signal to the brain and let's say you do 275 for 3 when you usually do 250 for 5, even though it's not going to cause a ton of difference, you've now taught your brain, I can do 275. You see what I'm saying? All right. I think that's enough from me. Thank you, ccum Squad, for watching. I'm going to do something else a little special this weekend when I have a little extra time. But you'll see what I mean by that once I do it. Maybe I shouldn't talk. Maybe I should just freaking do it first. But anyways, yeah. Thank you for watching. How long was I going for this time? I don't think I have anyone in here right now, but anyways, yeah. Thank you. Goodbye, ccum